Joining me right now is the former governor of Texas and former energy secretary himself, Rick Perry. Governor, it's great to see you. Thanks very much for being here. And as I always say, bad policy equals bad outcomes. Tell us about the energy policy that President Biden put in place in his first week in office.
Yeah, started first day doing away with the XL pipeline. The result of that should have been on its face very clear to the American people. We're seeing prices for gasoline going through the roof, prices for produce because of that energy increase. This is just simple economics. And the Biden administration, which is really pressured and directed by the left of the Democrat Party, is the reason this is happening, shutting down exploration in federal lands. New Mexico being devastated, I will suggest to you from a budget standpoint. That's a Democrat-controlled state, but it's being hit very, very hard by the Biden administration decisions. When you look at what's happening internationally and our allies in Europe who are being affected by this, it's not just the United States that's being hit by these bad policies. You shut down the XL pipeline, but you open up the Nord Stream 2, which President Trump had been very successful in stopping. And you had Russia back on its heels economically because of that. So these tentacles that go through the Biden administration from the standpoint of their energy policy, or the lack thereof, from my perspective, well, they do have a policy. And the policy is anti-fossil fuels, put everything in the renewable bucket. Look at what's happening in Germany today. Tim Cotton did a great job of explaining that on your prior segment. These are just crazy times from the standpoint of this administration that doesn't seem to have a real strategy, how to deal with America's economy, how to deal with our foreign policy. And we are paying a huge price for it, as are our allies in Europe and around the world, for that matter.
Well, it's very disturbing, Governor, because it just feels like this administration has their ideology around climate change and against fossil fuel, and they're making that a priority literally in every agency. You know, President Biden is going to nominate the head of the overseer of banks, Sarah Bloom Raskin. By the way, Democrat Congressman Jamie Raskin's wife, he wants to oversee the banks. And she said she wants climate change to be a bank priority. You've got the Department of Defense talking about climate change. And yet here we are watching oil prices skyrocket and jobs lost in the drilling space. So what's the impact to the American people?
Yeah, they are a one-trick pony, so to speak. Everything goes back to climate change, the policies that are put into place. I happen to think Elon Musk is one of the smartest people I've ever been engaged with in conversations and doing potential business deals with, if you will, while I was the governor of Texas, as he was bringing SpaceX to the state. But he was making some really powerful statements about climate change, is that you've got to have this transition out of fossil fuels into alternatives, whether it's small modular reactors, whether it's particularly got to be focused on our nuclear side of things. Renewables from wind and solar are going to play their role, but you can't put all your eggs in that basket. That's what the Biden administration has done. You cannot deal with the climate without the nuclear side of things. And Musk basically said, listen, you got to have this transition, but if you think you're going to go from the reliance upon fossil fuels today to totally doing away with it, you're not living in reality. Right. And that's the Biden administration. We see them living they're in a parallel universe, the best I can tell. It's not reality.
Well, I mean, look, solar and wind cannot fly a plane. Solar and wind cannot drive my car. So, I mean, the realities of what we're talking about are in front of us. But then there's another narrative that is their priority, and that is wide open borders. And Texas has been at the forefront. That's where our border with Mexico is. In your state, U.S. Border Patrol reporting an all-time high, 2 million migrant apprehensions in 2021. Half of those people were returned to Mexico or flown to other countries, we are told, meaning nearly 1 million are in the United States. This doesn't include the gotaways. 650,000 migrants have gotten away. We don't know their intentions. And this year is on pace to be even worse. What has this done to Texas? Tell me how Texas has changed. Because, you know, Governor, I heard a story that Houston is a completely different place. You've got gotaway cars driving the migrants from the border into Houston. They're getting all their fake papers in Houston, and it just looks like a different city than it did just a year ago. What can you tell us about the impact?
Well, I think this is the plan. I think the Biden administration absolutely, number one, they don't give a tinker's damn about Texas. But they also see this as a plan to put more people in the state. If you can get on an airplane with a document that basically says this is my warrant to show up because I'm in this country illegally, and that puts me on an airplane, why does the Biden administration not think that they're going to allow that to be used for voting? So this is a plan to get more people in this state that they think will vote for Democrats. I don't buy anything that this is an accident or this is being, just happening. And here is the issue from my perspective. If you have a heart at all, you've got to understand this, President Biden. Your policies are creating child sexual trafficking in this country like we've never seen before. My home state of Texas is the central focus of that because of that long border with Mexico. If you care about those children at all, you got to stop this border ingress that's going on in this country. It is a sad day in America for a president to basically allow this to happen.
Yeah, and you didn't even touch on the drugs, right, Secretary? I mean, there's that. The fentanyl coming in. They're lacing commonly used drugs with fentanyl. And the fentanyl is coming from China.
It's crazy. I mean, for an administration not to stand up and recognize this and say, look, these are real problems we got to deal with. That's what we were elected for. They want to spend their time talking about everything else in the world. I mean, I'm pretty sure the president of the United States, after a year, he's never stepped foot on the border of Texas and Mexico.
Yeah, well, we will be going there again this week, Secretary. We so appreciate you're joining me this morning.
Good for you.
I will be at the Texas-Mexico border this Friday, and we will broadcast the program live from McAllen, Texas. Secretary, it's good to see you. Thank you so much. This will be our fourth time at the border. Rick Perry.